Former German Chancellor Angela Merkel has accused Vladimir Putin of exploiting her fear of dogs as part of his power games during a meeting with her at his Black Sea resort. In extracts from her book Freiheit, published by German newspaper Die Zeit, the former German Chancellor said the encounter was typical of the Russian leader's tactics. Merkel recalls being kept waiting by Putin at the Group of 8 summit she hosted in 2007. If there's one thing I can't stand, it's unpunctuality. And she recounts a visit to the Russian Black Sea resort of Sochi that year, in which Putin's labrador appeared during a photo opportunity, although Putin knew she was afraid of dogs. Putin appeared to enjoy the situation, she writes, and she didn't bring it up, keeping, as she often did, to the motto, never explain, never complain. Putin has claimed that he brought his pet out to make the former German leader feel more at ease by doing something nice for her. The previous year, she recounts Putin pointing to wooden houses in Siberia and telling her poor people live there who could be easily seduced, and that similar groups had been encouraged by money from the US government to take part in Ukraine's Orange Revolution of 2004 against attempted election fraud. Putin, she said, added, "I will never allow something like that in Russia." Merkel says she was irritated by Putin's self-righteousness in a 2007 speech in Munich. "I sat in the front row and could closely observe Putin during his speech. He spoke quickly, sometimes freely, likely having written most, if not every word himself," she describes. Merkel was particularly irritated by Putin's self-confidence, as he did not mention unresolved conflicts at that time in Nagorno-Karabakh, Moldova, or Georgia. Some parts of Putin's speech seemed absolutely absurd to her. The former chancellor writes that in the Munich speech, Putin showed himself to be exactly as she had imagined. "I perceived him as someone always on alert to avoid bad treatment for himself and always ready to pounce on others. You may consider all this childish, condemnable, but you may shake your head. But it did not remove Russia from the map of the world," Merkel states. In her book, Merkel also noted that many countries in Central and Eastern Europe simply had no incentive to invest in relations with Russia. According to her, they seemed to want the country to simply disappear. But Russia, well armed with nuclear weapons, existed. It was and remains geopolitically indispensable, partly because, together with the United States, France, the United Kingdom and China, it is one of the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council with veto powers, says the former chancellor. As she has before, Merkel defends a much criticized 2015 peace deal for eastern Ukraine that she helped broker, and her government's decision to buy large quantities of natural gas from Russia. And she argues it was right to keep up diplomatic and trade ties with Moscow until she left power. In another extract from the 700-page memoir, Merkel also addressed her dealings with an emotional Donald Trump, who was apparently fascinated with the Russian president. She said his main aim was to make the person he was talking to feel guilty. At the same time, I had the impression that he also wanted the person he was talking to like him.
Fighters of the 3rd Assault Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces have cleared Kopanki village of Kharkiv region from the invading Russian army and captured 7 soldiers. The Russian prisoners said that they served in the 1st Tank Troops of the Russian Armed Forces, adding that they were sent from prison to the army. The soldiers of the occupying army added that they were suffering from lack of ammunition. Nevertheless, they must advance forcefully, otherwise they might be shot by their commanders if they retreat.
Мой позывной ВАР, я командир 2-го механизированного батальона 3-й отдельной штурмовой бригады. Вы с какого все подразделения? Первая танковая. Это ж хваленая первая танковая армия. Теперь хотелось бы услышать вечное вот это нытье, почему вы попали сюда. Расскажите, как тяжело вам было, что вас призвали?
Нет, мы впоследствии.
Впоследствии. Вы бывшие заключенные? Да. Все?
Нет, впоследствии был.
А какие статьи?
У меня 4 эпизода по лишению прав и телесных повреждений.
Ты?
Какие телесные повреждения?
Ты что, кому ты мог нанести телесные повреждения? Бабушку побил? Как давно зашли в тот населенный пункт, в котором вас взяли?
3 года назад.
Слушайте, ну нюансы все во-первых, запечатлеть, вас кто-то издевался, бил?
Нет, нормально.
Вы проходили ж на позиции, там куча ваших пацанов лежит, мужиков, пацанов.
Да.
Горы трупов. Ради чего, я не могу понять. Вы видели сегодня средний возраст парней, которые вас брали в плен и штурмовали населенный пункт?
Да.
Ну какой средний возраст, чтоб я не подсказывал? Пример.
35, 40 лет.
Ну, из тех, которые шли. А были 25-летние пацаны. И другая группа, она вся из 23, которая подпирала. Мы же просто там некоторые моменты понимаем, знаем и все остальное, когда вам просто говорят, у людей закончилась БК, то есть у вас, и вы говорите, нам надо отойти пополниться, у вас приказ только вперед, или обнуляем здесь, либо идете там с трупов, забираете БК с ножами, режьте хохлов. Это ж смешно. За нашими спинами наши города, наши семьи, наши дети. Все мы хотим хорошо жить, у нас прекрасная страна. А когда к нам курица-мутант заходит, двуглавый петух, и пытается нам прокачать и поставить под свои флаги, то живите. У вас мало проблем в вашей стране. А? Так как человек, который не может жить в нищете, может навязать другому точку зрения, что будьте как мы, ориентируйтесь на нас. Но это же смешно. Хорошая такая у нас эстафета вы передаете между собой. Ваши ощущения и ваше мнение, стоит ли сюда идти?
Не стоит.
Я хочу, чтобы война закончилась, чтобы я не был вообще.
Я мусора оставили в покое.
Что кто?
Мусора оставили в покое.
Понял. Мы поговорили с вами. Слава Украине, мужчины. Знаете, что надо отвечать?
Героям слава.
Красавчик, молоток. Ты получишь сникерс. Все остальные не получат сникерс. Давайте дружно. Слава Украине.
Героям слава.
Да, мужчина.